What's going on, guys? Sensible Prepper Live, and we're doing our prepper school. Today, we're going to talk about something that can be sensitive, but we're not going to get into any of the politics. We're going to stick with how to survive in a potential terrorist attack of different sorts. And so we're just going to take some looks, and we're going to talk about it because we're going to have some ground rules. First off, though, is we really appreciate Exotac for sponsoring today's episode. They make some of the best fire starters on the market, made down in Winder, Georgia. Just really creative, very useful items. I've been using Exotac for years, and so we really appreciate Exotac for giving a 20% discount using Sootch 20 with the link down below in the description, and just good stuff. Now, we also appreciate Sarah Mack for being over at the comments and the questions. Robbie Wheaton couldn't be here today, but he's got something going on, so he missed it. But he wanted to be here, especially when I talked to him about what we were going to be doing. Let me say this before we get started. First off, the current events. Again, we're not getting into politics. We're not getting into what's going on. That is not the purpose. This is actually a warning to all people that are here in the United States. Now, this could apply to wherever you are. There's a lot going on. And so terror is wrong. Terror attacks are wrong. Whether however you're fighting for your rights and your causes is one thing. But a lot of things we saw up front with a music festival with just innocent people being mowed down, but with machine guns, people being kidnapped, assaulted, abused, terrorized, hostages, all that kind of stuff. I don't care what side you're on. That is just wrong. And the other side, though, is not to put a group of people into a mass ideology. And so, guys, not everyone that is Islamic is a terrorist. And so that is also a whole different complete thing. And all of that is immaterial to what we're going to talk about, because here's the thing, guys. If you're in a terrorist, especially a random terrorist event, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what. It's indiscriminate, and anyone can be killed, maimed, hurt. And so this is what we're doing. We're going to talk about the specifics and some of the things to watch for, some of the warnings, how to be a little more prepared. And that is my goal here, is to keep people alive, especially in other countries that could get residual effects or attacks. There has been threats already toward the U.S. that if we get any way involved, which we are involved, that there could be potential problems here. In Europe, you're going to see the same thing because there are people. One of the things that we've seen coming across the border, and there have been a lot of arrest of people that were actually on the terror watch list that are coming across our borders. And so there is a potential for terror cells to be in the U.S. and for things to happen. I'll tell you guys, honestly, there was a lot of fear, especially after 9/11, that we would see a lot of terrorist attacks. While we did see some, really didn't happen like we thought it could possibly happen. And, that may be the case here, maybe. But to see the incredible just lack of humanity that went on at the beginning of these attacks, especially, it lends to people really being concerned and being concerned about your well-being. And so we're going to talk about some things. Now, of course, there are issues where, you may be in a place where it has a car bomb or some kind of explosive. And it's going to be very difficult if that happens to avoid it. You just may be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that could definitely be, and again, that means it's indiscriminate. It doesn't matter if you back which side, if you support one or the other, you could still be a casualty. And so the one thing about these different points that we're going to look at is Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, you could be a casualty. I have my personal opinions about things. We all do. Unless you live there and you're in the middle of it, no one knows. But I definitely just want to stay away from that. Now, I'm going to tell you this. We're going to take some questions. If you are into the political side of it, we're not going to go to those questions. We're just not going to. I've already instructed Sarah Mack to keep it to at least the subjects of survival. And that's what we're looking at. Okay, so again, could happen anywhere, could happen at any time. One of the number one things we need to do, and I want to say this too, all of these different points that we're making apply to just a grid down, post-apocalyptic or whatever kind of scenario. So you should be applying all these if there is some kind of situation, regardless if it's backed by terror. It could be a lot of other things. But so first thing is situational awareness, having your head on a swivel. Listen, if you go into an area and things just don't seem right, go with your intuition. Avoid those areas. If there are some things that are happening, maybe some shouting, maybe some conflict, maybe just some people that are doing things that are out of the norm. And that's where situational awareness really comes in handy, because you're able to see it, you're looking for it, and you go, guys, really, you should be in yellow. You should be, when it comes to situational awareness, you should be at point yellow. And that means that, you're not a paranoid, you're not expecting something, but that you're just looking, and you want to make sure that you're not caught unaware. And so that's the first thing. But I'm going to say that right now, during some of this critical time that we have a lot of action going on, is to bump that up to orange. And that means to be a little more observant. Watch where you're going. Watch the areas that you're walking in, especially if you're in an urban situation. It's not going to be as bad if you're in rural environments, because there's just less people. And one of the things about a terrorist attack is more people that are there, the more impact it has. And so those areas are going to be more vulnerable. So again, having your head on a swivel, having it up to level orange. And that means you're just looking a little bit more at what's going on. One thing about situational awareness is to look for exits. When you go into a restaurant, and you should really kind of be doing this anyway. I've taught my kids this, is always have your face to the door wherever you are. Always know where the exits are. If something were to happen with the front door, know how to go out the back door. If you should look at what's cover, which means will stop projectiles, and what's concealment, which means you're just hiding. A lot of times you'll see on the movies, people are in a restaurant, they throw the tables over, they get behind the tables, and they're sitting there having a gunfight over tables. Well, for one thing, a bullet will go right through that table, unless it's made of granite. And even then, after a while. So it's concealment is important if you don't have cover, because they don't know exactly where you are. Hiding, getting behind something. Concealment is a great tool, but the one you really want to get behind is cover. And that means it's something that will stop a bullet. And so looking at those areas, again, guys, we're not talking about getting super paranoid. We're not talking about, we got to watch everything. You need to at least be ready and just notice when things start to happen. Some people come in, they're acting really weird. Take note of that, and then act accordingly. And you're able to act quicker. If you have situational awareness, you're able to move and to make decisions quicker, because you're already watching them. You already know what's going on a little bit. And then if something really starts to happen, you can get you, if you're by yourself, get your family, whoever it is. Guys, our families a lot of times are with us, whether we're at a restaurant, we're at a park, or wherever we are, and to be aware of what's going on. Again, in a park, think about places as you're going. What can I get behind? What is a safe place? Even like in an explosion. It almost seems surreal, honestly, to be talking about this, but it's happening right now in the Middle East, these same issues. And we need to really think that it could hit home. Look, again, protection. Now, let me just say this next. And really, I had this down a little bit farther, but this is really something important, is to make sure that you are carrying. It's funny to me how many people that have concealed carry permits, and yet a lot of times they don't carry because it's a little inconvenient. They're like, I'm just going here. I'm just doing this. At this point right now, I want to urge you to carry. Carry wherever you are. Carry a firearm if possible. Some people, you're just out of luck because of people that are going against your constitutional rights here in the U.S., or if you're in Europe or in other parts of the world, a concealed carry is definitely forbidden. So carrying concealed. Guys, get your concealed carry permit if you don't have one. A lot of people think that, I don't want to be put on that list. Listen, if you're looking at different things on the internet, you're already on that list. The big thing is with a concealed carry permit, if you ever have to use it, you have the concealed carry permit to give you some legitimacy. If you get caught with a firearm that you're not supposed to have, with a concealed carry permit, you have some legitimacy. If you're in a state or a city that doesn't allow for concealed carry, the best thing to do is to avoid those, because those are probably going to be targeted more than a state or a city that has more freedom. One of the things about here, especially in South Carolina, is 10% of the population have concealed carry permits, which honestly, when I first read that, I was like, wow, 10% of the population. That means 1 out of 10 people that you're around are carrying, or at least have the ability to carry. But make sure that you are carrying. If you carry randomly, it's time to really start carrying as much as you possibly can. Some people in a work situation, they can't carry. And I'm not telling you to break the law, but I'm just telling you, you really want to be carried, because it's a very important thing. That is your personal self-defense. It's the defense of your family. I mean, for us, except for my youngest son, who will be 21 next year, we all have concealed carry permits. My son will have one when he turns 21, because, that's just the way we believe in the right for self-defense. Now, let's say you don't have a concealed carry permit. Well, carry a good flashlight. A good flashlight that'll stick beyond your hand with a crenulated bezel. That is a great self-defense tool, and that is legal everywhere. A flashlight. So at least have a flashlight. You can use it as an impact tool or a weapon, and plus you have light. If you can move past that to a knife is at least something. And in a very close situation, a knife can actually be better than a firearm. So if you can carry a knife, carry a knife. If you can carry pepper spray makes a good option. And it can stop people. Now, there are some people that are not affected by pepper spray, but they are few and far between. Most people are very much affected. And so having some self-defense options to give you more tools for your toolbox. But concealed carry, guys, I just want to emphasize this more than ever. If you are a concealed carry holder, or if you need to go or you've been thinking about it and you keep putting it off, you need to do it. It's a one-time thing. You get it, and then you can renew it, and it gives you and your family protection. And the last thing you want to do is to be standing there watching your children be killed because you have no means for self-defense, or your wife. Carry everywhere. And that's just a big one. And then talk to family and friends. Talk to your friends, family especially. Listen, when it comes to kids, you're the parent. You have to decide what they can take. But I think going ahead and giving them a little bit of notice is good. Scaring them to death is not good. And you don't want to put a lot of fear into them, but you do want them to be able to react, if they're able to understand, to be able to react to a bad situation. So those are the things first. And so let's see. Oh, and then I passed one because I went straight to concealed carry. And we're going to go to some questions after this, because I love to get you guys in there and bring up some things. And guys, it doesn't have to be specifically about this, but if you can, that works out well too. Okay, let's talk about, it's football season, guys. There are big stadiums with a lot of people, and there's very limited movement in those stadiums, especially if a panic happens. So first off, I would say this, and I know this is going to go beyond some people because, in fact, Robbie, that's where he's going right now. He's going to a football game. He's taking his son. They're going to something that's going on. If possible, avoid public gatherings, large public gatherings, if possible. The one thing that happened, and we mentioned this at the beginning, was there was a music festival going on. There was all these people. They were leaving because some rockets had gone off. They got in their cars. They were stuck in traffic. Up ahead were these security officers. And then the security officers ended up being terrorists. And people, as they got out of their car, they killed over 200 people right there, just started mowing them down. And that is one thing that you want to, number one, not get yourself in a situation where you're in a fatal funnel. And that's where they were. They were just trapped and they were just slaughtered right there. But being aware, being careful, avoiding those larger areas, knowing where the exits are, looking around in a stadium and saying, what is cover? And I can tell you this, there's not going to be a lot. Sometimes there are petitions that kind of separate different sections. Look for the exits. If you can get your seats or order your seats from a certain place, if you're at a concert, if you're somewhere, get it near the door. You may not be in the best seat of the house, but that's probably going to be the most vulnerable place to be, a place where you can get out. One thing, too, we need to address, and I did a video on this a couple of years ago, is stampedes. If you're in a huge group of people, especially in like a big concert or a sports arena, is that being trampled to death is a big possibility. And so, because people, when they panic, they just run and people fall and they get walked over. So number one, in a stampede situation where something's happened and people are trying to get out, make sure that you stay in the upright position. I don't care if you've dropped your phone, your billfold, your pocketbook, whatever. If it's gotten ripped away, let it go. Stay in the upright position. Another thing to do is to take your arms and make them like this. And this will allow you to breathe. One of the things that happens most of the time with a stampede situation is people get smothered to death because they're like this and their lungs get collapsed. So make sure you get your arms out in front of you and just bring them close to your chest, and it'll give you some breathing room. Look above you. Maybe there's something you can grab that you can pull yourself up, getting closer to the wall, especially not the wall where people are going, but on a sidewall where you can kind of get out of the mass. But if you do fall, get in the fetal position on your side and pull yourself in. Don't get on your back or on your stomach, because you will be pressed to where you just can't breathe and you'll be stepped on. If you can get in the fetal position, it's a lot easier to be able to protect yourself, and it'll give you some breathing room. Again, it's almost surreal to be talking about this, but I think it's very important. Because if there were some kind of situation where a bomb goes off and it's a collapse, a small area, then people are going to be, again, panicked and trying to get out. We've seen this at concerts before. We've seen it on bridges before. But make sure that you just take heed. And I'm going to have that video annotated above, because I think it's one of those that can really apply to what we've seen. And guys, you would be amazed at how many people are killed in stampedes all around the world. Just that mass press. So let's go to some questions, and we're going to continue on.
Suzanne West asked, I live in a small southern rural town. What are the issues that we may face compared to the urban cities?
I think it's going to be a lot less. I don't think you're really going to have that many problems. We live we live outside of a pretty decent sized city, Greenville, South Carolina. And there are a lot of people here, of different ethnic groups, a lot of different people. You may have some, small events going on. I think most of your terrorist type activities are going to be at places that have larger cities, larger groups of people, because again, it just makes a bigger impact. So, but the one thing about a rural area too is that people know each other a lot more. So if somebody comes in that's kind of that doesn't fit in, where you're not from around here, are you? That's one thing that they're going to, people can be watched that way. And so I think that your rural areas are going to be a lot safer. I would avoid large gatherings if you have like big events. A lot of cities and towns, they have big festivals, especially this time of year and through the summer. And so, you have these events that are going on in the cities or these towns that could be a possibility as well. I don't think we're totally immune, but I think you're a lot better off being in a more rural area.
Andrew Manning asked, what are some history books that could help us understand what could happen?
Well, you take 9/11, and let me just say this, and I don't know of any specific books. That would be good, but there are a lot of books written, about different situations that have happened over the past. Wow, from the beginning when all this started, and this has been going on a long time. But I think one of the things, let's say 9/11, I'm going to give you a quick example. I was flying a lot after 9/11. And one of the things that people that supported the 9/11 bombings seemed to be emboldened to kind of be out there. They wanted to instill fear. I was flying on a plane one time. We were waiting on the flight, and there was a guy there, and he was Arabic, which is fine. There was a ton of different people there of all different nationalities, and there were other Arabs out there that don't agree with what's going on. But he just started talking really loud in Arabic on his phone. Of course, everybody was kind of keyed into that because we'd just gone through 9/11. And then he'd go over to his computer and he would furiously do some stuff. Then he'd get back on and he's pacing, and he was acting very erratic. Now, he may have been upset about a business deal. I don't know. I'm not there to judge him, but I am there to watch him. So I'm sitting there. So finally, I got up, just went and sat down beside him because nobody else would, and just sat down. And it was funny because he kind of calmed down a little bit. And then when he got on the plane, he was talking loud again on the phone and he kept going up to his thing. A lot of times if you see things like that where people are acting erratic, that's typically a sign that there's something going on. And so those are the kind of people that you need to watch. Most people are going to just be living life. They just want to live life. They're not getting involved in all this. So that's why the warning goes to all of us.
Mika Homestead asks, will my whole house surge protector save it from an EMP damage?
There's a lot of theories about EMP, which, guys, let me just say this about this whole situation we're talking about, and I'll get to your question. Iran is making a lot of comments about and threats. And obviously there's a lot of support between Hamas and Iran. So Iran is now a nuclear power, regardless, because, we've made them that way or given them the ability. And so a possible EMP is a possibility if they're able to get a nuke that high up in the atmosphere. But there are other countries, obviously, that could do the same. As far as a surge protector, we really don't know. Some people say that your phone's going to be completely shut off immediately. Some say it won't hurt it if it's laying on the table. But the thing is, when an EMP goes off, it puts out these gamma rays, this radiation. It's not harmful to people, but it goes in these waves. And one of the things about a Faraday cage, in fact, I've got a bag over there that is a Faraday bag, and it will defeat those kind of rays. Or those rays, for lack of a better term for me. So electronics can be affected. Surge protector, maybe, it's according to what it is, how much it's rated for, but yet in a EMP, it's a different type of radiation and it's a different type of wavelength. So I'm not sure. But so the best thing to do is to have some sort of there's something that's typically grounded and it's metal, and then it's insulated on the inside, and that typically will save, theoretically, your electronic devices. But again, that's a big question, and there are a lot of people, and not knowing the surge protector properties, but it could possibly.
Razor Wire asks, are you expecting an SHTF world of low to no ammo and a return of apocalyptic medieval looters, anti-looter siege warfare?
No, I don't really think that's going to happen. I don't think we're going to have a zombie apocalypse where everything goes back to Stone Age. Now, is that possible? Yes, it's possible, but it would have to be a massive craziness. Let me just say this. I read this book. It's called The Parable of a Sower, and now the name eludes me. But it was a black author. She was a woman, and she wrote about how drugs and homelessness and the economy just starts to collapse. You still have police, you still have law enforcement, government, you still have fire, you still have a military, but they're very hindered by their budgets because nobody's making money. Jobs are just gone. People are just barely scraping by, and it's a very violent world. And to me, with what we're seeing, and you can see this in the big cities already, where people are having, crime is soaring, and people are having to protect themselves. In this scenario, these neighborhoods built walls around their became small villages, actually. And, they would have security was a big deal. I think that is a more probable situation. Octavia Butler. Thank you. You people are awesome. And that is a great book, by the way. Great book. To me, it really spells out probably more probable of what we could be facing with the economy. But as far as medieval and warlords and all that stuff, it's possible. But one of the things that happened with Ferfal in Argentina was he said, there wasn't a SHTF day. He said just that crime went through the roof and that the peso went down to nothing. And then things just started going crazy. But the government was still there. And he said they won't be there to protect you, but they'll be there to arrest you. But realize this, that if there is a vacuum of government, there will be a force to come in to take it. So I just don't, that's just my personal opinion. I just don't really think we're going back into a stone age of not knowing anything. And yes, ammunition, you've already seen how ammunition gets scarce. And guys, I'm going to tell you this, if you don't have, and I said this last week, I said, buy ammo. Buy it now while it's reasonable. But with this going on, with the terror thing, we may see ammo flying off the shelves. I have not been to a ammo dealer lately, but if you haven't, I'd order some if you don't have any, if at least that. Let's go to one more and we're going to jump on in.
Modern Day Prepper asks, question, how many people are too many people for a group to reach a designated BOL? I'm trying to figure out if I'm at a safe max capacity for my group.
Well, for me, the more people you have, the better off you're going to be. People are your best asset. Now, as far as how to feed those people and how to care for them, but you're going to have a lot more people working together. It is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. One thing we do is we have our group, and it's our core group. We meet regularly. These people are very trustworthy, and we have built relationships together. We have dinners together. We have a very close knit, and then we talk about the things we have. Next, we go into a network. The network are people that are part of our group, but they come here and there and they do whatever. When we have some kind of situation like we're having right now, we'll have all those people come to the meeting. So I rely on that center group. The rest of those people, they're there. We want to have them. But then we have networks where we have other groups that we have connections with, people that we know, people in other states, people that have groups that we can relate with, that we can talk to. So, but here's the thing. There are a lot of people that are preparing, and having people, you're not necessarily going to have people in just your compound or your piece of property or whatever you're planning for. Some of those people won't even be able to get there. So to me, having a large group is great, as long as you can get along together and people are working together. You're always going to have people that they're going to be hard to get along with, but keep those at a minimum. And listen, guys, if you are that person that's hard to get along with, work on your people skills and start loving and caring for other people, because that's really what this is all about. So hope that helps. There's a big group here in our area, the Upstate Preppers. It's on Facebook, and that they coordinate together, but they're not necessarily together. So, but it's a great network to be able to get help and assistance and come together if you need to. And I think that's one of the best ways to do it. That's just me. Okay. Now, again, talk to friends, talk to your family. Family's important. Discuss some things. Again, don't cause fear, especially if you have little children. It's going to be a very difficult one, but you need to be careful because you don't want for your children, especially middle school, high school, or even elementary school, if they're able to cope with it, is just to know that some things are going on that you need to listen to mommy and daddy. Again, that's up to you as a parent, how best to approach it. Again, don't scare your kids. It's just not cool. But yet again, they don't need to live in a fantasy world. If things are happening, it could mean the difference between life and death, and for them to take action when you ask them to. Okay, ballistic panels. Now, this is something that I've done for years, but I have some of the, and they just defeats like class 3A or what. It's the soft panels. I keep them in backpacks because they don't weigh that much. I keep them in a computer bag. I have a computer bag. It has one of those panels in it. If something were to happen, I've got that panel to put between me and whatever's going on. But here's the thing. If it's a rifle, that's going to be an issue because a lot of those panels, and we've done a lot of testing with those, they won't defeat, 5.56 or 7.62 by 3.9 rifle ammunition. So you can step it up. Now, traditionally, it's been really heavy. The type panels that defeat rifle ammunition has been very heavy. Now they're coming out with a lot of technology to where these panels have become very light and yet will still defeat, most of your rounds. Maybe not up to 308 or 30-06 or whatever, but typically people that are, especially in a terror situation or even a mass shooter, they're not using a 308 because that thing has got a lot more power, but it's got less rounds. And typically they want to have a high volume type situation. I have not, even though we've done tons of testing with all kind of different ballistic panels. One thing that I have not gotten into and have been meaning to do is some of the lighter weight options that are coming out now that are just great. And I think it's important to have them. And so we will be doing some of that coming up. I have had quite a few companies get in touch with me, but I just haven't had time. So you want to look into panels that will defeat 223, 5.56, or 7.62 by 3.9. And that would be even a better option, especially if you have some kind of active shooter situation. And you can also, because of the lightweight, put those in the back of a kid's backpack if you need to. So that gives them a little bit more protection as well. So just an option. I mean, it doesn't cover your extremities, but it does give you that vital area right here to be able to protect yourself if something goes down. But again, guys, look for cover. Look for places that will protect you. Cement walls will protect you typically, especially thicker ones. Sheetrock and wood panels, that'll blow right through that stuff, and that's not good. But it is good for concealment. So it may keep them from firing indiscriminately into those kind of places. But definitely some kind of ballistic panel, and it should be part of your when you're going around. I mean, backpacks are a big part of what people do. You may say, you know what, I don't carry a backpack. Well, I suggest maybe, especially if you're going somewhere, is to start carrying a backpack, putting in that ballistic panel, putting in a few items that you're going to carry for EDC, and start making that more of a habit. I'm not one big to carry around a backpack. I'll have one with me. I'll have one in my car. I'll have it, whatever. But I think it's going to be vital to, if I'm going into an area where there's a lot of people, is to have some sort of protection. And that could be even against a bomb, because a lot of the shrapnel and things that happen, that panel could actually stop it. And a backpack possibly could do some of it. So finding a nice backpack, make sure you have a ballistic panel. The soft panels are inexpensive. Some of the more higher technology, lightweight panels are expensive, but what's your life worth? And decide how you want to do it. So that is also a big deal. Now we're going to go into something now that I think is one of those things. And again, we talked about the situation with the concert where people were in their cars and they got out, and then all of a sudden these guys opened up on them. One thing I want to say here is you need to be practicing how to drive in reverse. Now, I know this sounds crazy. Practice driving in reverse. Now, if you're back to back to cars, you're not going to have a lot of options there unless you have some room to get out. I read James Yeager's 7 Pillars of Self-Defense, and he was a contractor over in the Middle East. And one of the things he said in this one section of driving is that you should know how to drive backward. I mean, to make it almost second nature. Let me tell you what I did when I read that book. We have our driveways, and we have a different kind of way around here, but we have to back out of our driveway, and we back in, and we come over on this side of the house, and there's different type driveways. Learning how to back up into a parking place, getting used to that, just practicing backing up. Go to a big parking lot that doesn't have a lot of cars in it, and learn to drive and to back up and to pick up speed. But getting out of a situation. So let me just say this: when this terrorist attack happened at this concert, one of the cars that was toward the back, when they started watching these guys open up, the guy hit it in reverse. And as they were shooting at his car, and he spun out in reverse and took off backward. They put a couple of rounds through the windshield. He got hit in the shoulder, but they lived. I think she got hit in the leg. They went flying backwards. And that saved their lives because they were able to drive backwards. So this is just something that, regardless of a terrorist attack, practice driving backwards. Just do it for fun. Do it for kicks. Do it to get yourself out of a situation. And then when it happens, you know what you're doing. And then you could be like Mater on cars when he likes to drive backwards. And so maybe they'll nickname you Mater. But this is definitely something that, we can go forward. We know how to do that. But again, practicing reverse. If things look fishy, if things don't look right, and you have the ability to avoid it, do it. Use your intuition. One of the things about this whole thing is sometimes, your intuition might come in and you go, that's kind of strange, but then you just discount it. Don't discount it. Think about it. Avoid a situation. Oh, you know what? This is going to take me a little bit longer to drive around this area than it is to drive through it. Maybe drive around it. If something's not right and you're kind of going, and you're indecisive, take the safer route. Think about the way to keep out of situations. Time is valuable, no doubt, but sometimes it's important. We were coming back. We went to a big wedding up in Michigan this past weekend. It was a long way away, but it was beautiful. The whole area, all the way up and down, was beautiful. And so there was a lot of driving. And there were certain areas that we would look and they'd say, oh, there's places here that are backed up. How can we get around that? And so we put it into our ways and found some really cool shortcuts that saved us a lot of time. And that's the kind of situation. You got a situation somewhere, and a lot of times, like with Waze is a great option, as far as being able to travel, because it will tell you where law enforcement is. It'll tell you where accidents are. It'll announce it. It'll say, hey, hazard up ahead, or law enforcement up ahead. And so it gives you some cues to be able to, while you're driving, but it also will say, hey, traffic's going to be backed up. And sometimes, your standard Google Maps will do that as well. But I just find that Waze really is a great option, and you can run both of them for that matter. So getting around bad situations, if something starts to happen, and this is one thing that Waze is good about, and I just want to highly recommend downloading that app. I'm not affiliated with Waze or anything, but one thing that happens, you are able to interact. So let's say you see law enforcement sitting on the side of the road. You can put up law enforcement, you saw them. And people that go by will hit it. And then when he's gone, they can take it off. Now, I know you police officers over there are going, come on, man. But that's just the way the app works. If there's a hazard, you can say up hazard, and you hit the prompt, and it will identify a hazard for people. Let's say that there is a terrorist situation and something's going on and people have Waze, and then all of a sudden they start tapping and saying situation. It won't say a terrorist attack, but it will say there is a hazard up ahead. And if you start seeing a lot of those hazards, it may be something to avoid. Just one of those things. Of course, with road construction all around, it's a pain in the rear end already, but it's getting our roads fixed. So those are some things that you can use. So let's just recap. We're going to some questions. First off, this is a warning to everybody. Again, we're not picking sides. We're not saying anything about that. I have no effect. I have nothing that I can control. That's out of my control. So let's look at things again that are here that affect us and our families. And of course, random acts of terror, bomb going off on the side of the road. You won't have any control over that. You're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But sometimes you can see things ahead of time and go, that doesn't look right. Get out of the way. Situational awareness, being aware of what's going on around you, knowing, having your head on a swivel, noticing the exits, having your back facing where you're facing the door, your back to the wall, knowing where those exits are, knowing where hard cover is, where you can get behind if you need to, because you're carrying your concealed carry permit weapon. You may be able to stop a situation because you're carrying, not just to protect your family, but to stop a massacre. And it's one thing about, again, the U.S., we have a lot of ability more than other countries to do that. Carrying your knife. You never know when you might have to cut something loose. You might have to do something. Carry a knife with you guys. I mean, it is those tools that's basic that you should be carrying, and have a good flashlight. At night, especially with a terrorist activity, something going on, there's an incident, you've got a flashlight to be able to see, to get through to things. And so that works well. Avoid large gatherings if possible. If you're there, situational awareness should be at its height. You should know the exits, know the cover, know how to get out. Think about the stampede effect. Think about getting you and your family out of an area, avoiding the push. Of course, carrying everywhere. Talking to your family, making a plan ahead of time. Just having something there to go, guys, if things start going wrong, listen to me. We're going to do this. We're going to get out of the area. And then everybody knows. Maybe even have a code word. Say, this. And then everybody kind of goes, oh, have heightened awareness. Then they leave. Ballistic panels in a backpack or a computer bag or messenger bag or your pocketbook. Even if you have there's some small ones. They make some small ones that actually go to the side that actually could be something to cover this area. Could be helpful. Traveling, again, danger zones are going to be more cities, more highly populated areas. Avoid those if possible. Practice driving in reverse. That's just a big one. If nothing else you get out of this, just practice driving in reverse. Do it whenever you can. Just drive her, coming out. Let's just try some reverse. Let's back into that parking spot. Let's see what this car's, and just work on that. It's going to give you more ability and give you some more options. If it looks fishy, turn around. And then gas tank full. I missed that one. Gas tank should be full. If it gets down to about half, go ahead and stop. And you go, you know what? I don't need gas, but it'll fill up anyway. Keep your gas tank full. And then Waze, and there may be some other options you guys can throw in there, but Waze tends to be a great way to really know real time what's going on in different areas. And it may be something that can be more vital in a hazardous situation. Okay, let's go to some questions. If you guys got some questions.
Gio asked, do you think the end of the world is going to be brought by war or natural disaster?
Both. I'm a Christian. Revelation is pretty straight up. War, pestilence, and disasters, natural disasters coming all together at once. That's and we're seeing the beginnings of it. But one of the things that it also says is that you'll see a lot of these things happening before the end. Doesn't have to be the end, but you'll see these things happening. And those are things that are just natural that happen here on this earth.
Switchblade Jim asked, Sootch, can you please explain the color levels a bit more?
Okay, so white means you're just oblivious. It's a sunny day. Everything's going great. You just found $20 on the sidewalk. And you're just like, hey, all right. You're just walking around. No awareness whatsoever. Yellow is where you're looking, and honestly, you should be in yellow all the time. Yellow is where I'm seeing things around. I'm just noticing, not being paranoid, not even worried about anything, but I'm just looking around and just trying to avoid being surprised. And so, that is yellow. And again, that's what you should be. When I go into a store, I'm on yellow. I'm just looking. I see somebody over here. I notice them, but I don't think anything bad. I just notice it. Orange means you're stepping it up. Orange means just like we are right now. There is something going on. It's not just a normal day. There's a potential. There's some potential there. With whether it was like with BLM riots or the Antifa or different things like that, that's where you step it up because things are going on. Doesn't mean you're in imminent danger, but it means that there are things going on and you should be a little bit more heightened and aware, a little more avoiding certain spots that you might not avoid at yellow, saying that's a potential. I think I'm going to go the long way. I think that's a good one for orange. Red means you're in it. Red means it's on. And you're fighting for your life, or you're getting the heck out of Dodge and it's going down. And that's where red is. Red is a bad place to stay. Orange is not a good place to stay unless there's something going on. So it's white. Day is good. Nothing's happening. Yellow. You know what? I'm just kind of everything's great. Having a great day. Just got my eyes peeled here and there, head on swivel, just checking things out. Again, orange is something's happening around, and I just need to be aware. And then red means you're in the middle of it.
Lucky 13 Driver says, hi, y'all. Being about 80 miles north of the border, my family has ramped up. Home and vehicle security, medical, food. Are there any recommendations to add?
Food, medical. The sad thing is you leave your home and that's where your base is. That's where your supplies are. That's where everything is. That's a tough one. And just make sure that you're carrying more than you think you can carry. If you have to evacuate, you're a glorified refugee. You may be heading to somewhere. You need to have a destination for sure. And making sure that, you have a balance for the things that you have. Making sure that you have the documents. You have current photographs, not pictures on your phone. Photographs of your family in case somebody gets separated. You want to be able to use that photograph. And of course, plenty of water. Water, especially if you're 80 miles north of the border, water is important. So, but having a destination is really vital, and keeping that gas tank full, and maybe having a couple of extra gas tanks all out of a vehicle where you can refill if you need to. But you're heading in the right place. You're doing the right thing, and you may have all those covered. Making sure important documents, making sure that you have some cash in case your ATMs are down.
Cynthia A says, I have a flight on Saturday within the U.S. Do you think it's safe now?
Yeah, that's one of those random things. You don't know, but I would feel like right now, especially with what happened after 9/11, TSA kind of went overboard some and then not on some. But I think right now you're going to have a heightened security at airports. I think it's going to be better. It may be safer now to travel. But then again, just keep your eyes peeled. Look for situations. If something's going on, report it. If you see something that just is a little bit like, nah. We did that. We did that one time after 9/11. We had a situation where we ended up reporting some people because they were belligerent. Well, just because of who they were being belligerent, and we reported them. I hate to do that, but I hate for somebody to get hurt. So, but I think you're fine. I think right now, and we'll see. I think a lot of attention's over there, and then we'll just see. I think if we start to see more and more involvement with the U.S., we could possibly have more issues. But again, I'd stay in orange no matter what.
Ryan Mathena asks, advice for someone who has infants.
That's a tough one. I mean, we've had babies, and but there's a lot of people out there that also have children. I think number one is to avoid large crowds, especially with infants. That's one thing that they're not as mobile. Typically you've got baby carriages and carts and things, and your bags and all the stuff that goes around that. And so you want to be mobile and you want to stay out of some areas right now. And guys, here's the thing. This is just right now. We're going to see how this unfolds. It may just kind of, which I don't really think it will. I think we're going to see, there's going to be some more stuff that's going to be coming down the pipe. So, but I think with infants, having the necessary things you need, being able to protect them and shelter them, making sure that you do have concealed carry. a way to defend them if you need to defend your family. But I think the number one thing for you, my advice would be to avoid large gatherings, or even cities, being in a city situation that has a lot of people.
Ken Smith says, question, is now the time to open concealed carry on a daily basis? Thank you.
Yes, carry on a daily basis. Open carry, that works. There's a big debate about that. A big debate. Open carry just lets everybody know that they feel protected.
Another person commented on the same question. Kind of hit squad says, I've never thought open carry was smart, considering you'd be the first taken out by the bad guy. Thoughts?
There's a couple of things. One thing you want to do is, if you're going to open carry, make sure that you have that firearm secured. I've seen a number of instances and heard of a couple of personal instances where people were sitting in a gas station or whatever with their open carry, and somebody behind them pulled a gun out. Or one guy actually had a guy said, hey, I like your gun. He said, oh, thanks. And the guy said, let me have it. And he poured a gun at him. There wasn't nothing that guy could do. But there's a lot of instances where open carry, especially if you don't have a concealed carry permit, you should definitely open carry, at least to have that. You just want to, again, let's go back to situational awareness. If you're walking around with an open carry, you got to have some personal space around you and make sure nobody gets in that space. Make sure that your firearm is secured. And there are different ways. There's holsters with great retention that you can, a level 3 retention, you can hold that thing in place. So definitely there's a place for open carry. I don't personally do it just because I conceal carry, and I like to have that. But I have a lot of friends that do open carry, and it's just a matter of personal preference. But here's the one thing: again, holster retention, number one. Number two, personal space. Make sure that people keep out of your personal space, and it doesn't have to be 6 feet. It can be just in that area, and be aware when somebody's coming up behind you that could pull that gun out of that holster. So just give you those levels. But
Timothy Van de Beek asks, question for Sensible Prepper, what type of gray man tactics would be best implemented in a huge crowd?
Well, the one thing is, you want to stay unnoticeable. You don't want to be that person that when you're walking through the crowd and they're noticeable, you just kind of go, oh, they stand out. You just don't want to stand out. Your actions, you don't want to stand out with your actions. You don't want to stand out with the dress, the clothes you're wearing. One thing about it is, let's say you're a big guy, very muscular, handsome guy. You're walking through and you're kind of swaggering. You notice that guy. Now, how he's going to tone it down, maybe not wear a tank top. Maybe a lady. We were talking about this last week. Had a woman walk by us. She was in yoga pants. She was a very pretty woman. And, as she walked by, she was just very noticeable. And one of the guys that was with me was like, whoa, and ladies, while that's very enjoyable, you in a gray man situation or gray woman situation is to tone it down, to blend in where you just look like the average Joe. And wearing clothes that without gun logos and all that stuff going on, where you're calling and identifying yourself. Me, a lot of times I'm wearing a t-shirt. It's like got an AR-15 on it, or something else. And, that's not gray man. That's not. But I'll give you this example. Like in the cities, a lot of times people do wear a lot of clothes, and it's according to what city you're in. If you're in Miami, it's bright clothes. But if you're in New York City, it's typically more drab clothes, more just nondescript, dark grays, blacks. I was in Chicago one time, went to a restaurant. We were getting ready to get on a plane. I had this bright coral color shirt. I don't know why I was wearing that. Coral shirt. We walk into this really nice restaurant. Everybody in there is all dressed up. When I walked in, I felt like I was a beacon. And people look. It kind of made them look. You don't want to have people stop and look and notice you. That's probably the biggest thing.
JCH74 says, good morning. What 22 long rifle ammo do you guys recommend? Thanks for all you do.
Well, I use, for years, CCI mini mags have been they've just been very reliable. I have been using, which is almost identical, is the Fiocchi, their copper wash jacketed bullets. Those things are great. They function extremely well. And I think maybe this is pretty much same type ammo. So there are some punch and different type self-defense ammos if you want to do that. But if you're just going to target play around. But this is the one thing, CCI mini mags, for me, whenever I would take a 22 out for review, is I would always make sure I had CCI mini mags because they would function the gun if other ammos would not. If the gun was going to function, it would function with CCI mini mags. And so that was just my choice. But again, the Fiocchi has been phenomenally the same. So, and Fiocchi sometimes will run a little bit less, and Fiocchi sponsors my ammo. But even then, I'm telling you, Fiocchi is a great ammunition. But CCI mini mags, those sometimes are easier to find. Those are kind of like my go-to choices.
The Salty Dog 339 says, "Sensible Prepper, have you read and would you recommend the book The Professional Citizen Project? I thought it was great, by the way."
Huh? No, I have not read that. I'm always looking for good books. I read a lot. I'm in the middle of Atlas Shrugged. And if you want to read something that is absolutely phenomenal, where you feel like you're in this world, it is a brilliant book. But no, I haven't, and I will check that out because I'm always looking for really good books. So thanks for the recommendation.
Onosferatu asks, "What is the shelf life of those lightweight panels?"
If you keep them, first off, if you keep them in temperature control and you don't have them exposed to sunlight, I think it's 5 years. I'm thinking now. Don't hold me to that. It may be less, but the fact is some of them do degrade over time, but most of the time, the shelf life refers to like law enforcement, military, and those guys rotating out. So I think that the life would be longer on those. That might be a good test to do, is to have a panel and just have it sitting there and get a fresh one and get ready to test them after a number of years. I haven't done that, but I do have some older panels. So that might be something to check out, for me to check out and maybe bring to you guys. So we'll see. Now, for me, I used a lot of AR-500 armor in the day because I wanted something that I don't care how many times it was hit, it would withstand it. But the problem with AR-500 is the spalling, unless you have it coated. But that would be a good test. But I think really, even if a ballistic panel is out of date, I think it's going to take a while for it to really lose its properties to not stop a projectile.
Grizzly T asks, "What do you think the chances are of another attack on the U.S., especially after 9/11?
Well, I think with what's going on right now, and especially with Iran backing what's going on, I think that the chances are pretty good. The one thing about it, and this is just what it is. This isn't a racial thing. It's not an ethnic thing. It's not anything. But the one problem with the people that are trying to carry out terrorist attacks is they kind of stand out here in the U.S. There are a lot of Arabic people. In fact, we were in Michigan in one town, and I had breakfast in the hotel, and there's a lot of Arabic people there. And, they're just there. They're enjoying themselves. It was great. They're just good people. But when you have people that are doing some things that are a little bit off color and they're Arabic, it really puts up a red flag. So, that's one reason why I think they haven't been as effective to do things here as they could. But there are a lot of people coming across the border, again, that have been on the terror watch list. The ones they've caught. So the potential of a terrorist attack with what's going on in Israel right now in Gaza is high. Am I saying it's 90%? No, I'm saying it's probably 20%, but that's higher than it was. And it could happen. Again, guys, stay on yellow. Carry your firearm wherever you go. Carry it. Open carry it, whatever. Carry your firearm. Just fight it. We are out of time. Okay, one last thing about Exotac, guys. Fire kits, vital. Fire is essential. Best fire tools on the market, Exotac. You get 20% off using Sootch 20, made right here in the USA, down in Winder, Georgia. Those guys are really good too. But again, the link's down below in the description. We appreciate Sarah Mack for being here. Thank you, guys. We love you guys. I mean, you guys bring in a lot of questions, a lot of good things. We thank you for being here. Hopefully this will help. This is a warning. Again, this is not about the political situation that's going on. That's beyond our control. What we need to do is to focus on how to protect ourselves and our families and our friends and make a stronger, safer community. That is our goal. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.